It's Monday. It's May 1st, 2023. You're listening or watching live on the ISC Sports Network to the Tana and J-Man Show, episode 337. If you're watching, you might notice that Josh the J-Man is not joining me today. He had some obligations he needed to take care of, so filling in for him like he has many times is my father, Eric Lee. Dad, how are you on this gloomy Monday evening?
I'm doing well. And yourself?
Hanging in there. That's all we can do. Wish it was warmer.
A little snow here today, but we made it through.
It seems like every week when Josh and I do the introductions on these podcasts, we're talking about how cruddy the weather is. So hopefully that's going to turn around soon for the better. But
yeah, it's about over.
I hope so. It's May. April showers are supposed to bring May flowers, but today we're getting showers and snow and a little bit of everything. So
yeah,
but that's how it goes sometimes, I guess. But we are going to put the Birdie or Bogey contest on hold. It's a tie contest right now so far in 2023, but for the entertainment of the show, you did provide me with a Birdie or Bogey question tonight. So with that said, let me have it.
All right. Well, as you well know, the NFL draft took place this past weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Bryce Young obviously went first. Second pick was C.J. Stroud, quarterback, Ohio State. Well, I got to thinking the overall number 2 pick has not been very successful in NFL lore. Out of the 87 drafts, only 12 number 2 picks have ever even made the Hall of Fame. My question, there's only been 3 that's made the Hall of Fame since 1984, and I was wondering if you could name 2 of them.
The number 2 overall picks.
Yep. And I'll give you a hint. It was not Ryan Leaf, who was the number 2 overall pick behind Peyton Manning.
I knew that one.
Okay.
But I'm going to have to take my time on this one because I can't even think who
There's
was
no way
taking number 2 overall.
The other 2, well, they're obviously all-timers or they wouldn't be Hall of Famers. So
yeah.
And it's obviously they weren't number 2 picks in the last, say, 10 years because you have to have 5 years before you go to the Hall of Fame.
Right, but still, this is going to be a tough one.
Yeah. I also, while we're here, there's only one quarterback that's ever been drafted number 2 overall that's made the Hall of Fame, and that was Sid Luckman in 1939.
Would have never guessed that one.
Yeah, if you think about some of the number 2s that have been picked here lately, the most successful one is probably Carson Wentz. You had Zach Wilson. You had Mitch Trubisky. You had Marcus Mariota, Carson Wentz. So, there haven't been a lot of what I'd call big-time quarterbacks drafted number 2 overall.
Well, the Texans are hoping C.J. Stroud breaks that mold.
Absolutely.
Sure.
They're banking on it.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll get into talking about them here in a little bit more detail. But that is the Birdie or Bogey question for the week, which is brought to you by, like it is every week, Arlington Public House. Arlington Public House has upscale cuisine and cocktails with a casual atmosphere right on 703 Main Street in Rochester, Indiana. And they had a nice post today about Kentucky Derby, which is coming up this weekend. You can come celebrate and watch the races with the Arlington Public House on Saturday. They'll have the races on their TVs and in their simulator room for racing entertainment. And in anticipation of this weekend's race, they have both the Derby and Mint Juleps for $2 off all week long. And the best dressed Derby couple that comes in on Saturday will win a $50 gift card to use at Arlington Public House or Dreddy's Place.
Nice.
So, if you're looking for somewhere to watch the Derby Saturday, go on to the Arlington Public House and dress up. Wear a hat, wear a suit if you're a male, wear a nice dress if you're a female, and see if you can win. And of course, tonight's Monday. They have their Monday special, $2 off smoked whole wings and $1 off domestic beers. That's a special they're doing every Monday. So like we said last Monday, if you don't have plans next Monday, I'm guessing everybody's already got plans right now. So next Monday, if you don't have plans, go to the Arlington Public House between 6:30 and 7:30. Not only get $2 off smoked whole wings and $1 off domestic beers, but tell them to flip it on channel 122, and you can still catch the Tan J Man Show. You don't have to miss it. You don't have to DVR it. You can still catch it live. So you got the best of both worlds.
There you go.
There we go. All right, well, let's talk about the NFL draft. Your birdie or bogey was sent around the NFL draft. The NFL draft has come and went. What are some of your overall thoughts on the NFL draft this year?
Well, I think the draft sure makes a superstar out of Mel Kiper and Todd McVay for one weekend. McShay. Well, maybe not a superstar then, just a star. I know. I guess a lot of our thoughts are based on what these guys are telling us.
Right.
Everybody obviously knows that Houston took a big gamble, but they took a quarterback and a linebacker at 2 and 3, mortgaged a little bit of their future, but seem to have gotten stalwarts on both sides of the football, or at least they hope. It's a tough process. Everybody thinks the Eagles did fantastic. We'll find out if Jalen Carter is going to really be a problem. He was overall thought of as one of the top 2 or 3 picks in the entire draft. He fell to number 9. Eagles also did a big trade and got DeAndre Swift from the Lions. So most people, or many people at least, are saying the Eagles had the best draft. And that's hard to do after you come off of just being the Super Bowl runner-up. So,
well, I thought they did a heck of a job in the first round. Like I said, Jalen Carter fell to them. I mean, they trade up with the Bears for the 9th pick to get him, and then Nolan Smith from Georgia fell in their lap there at 30, and then they traded for DeAndre Swift from the Lions, like you said. So I thought they did pretty darn good, but we'll see. I saw there was a lot of draft grades out there. Everybody kind of graded from A to I think B minus was the lowest. I didn't see anybody in the C's this year. I think the Chargers got a B minus grade from somebody from the NFL Network. But I thought that was pretty interesting because usually you'll see some C's or maybe even some D's if somebody really did bad, but not so much this year. I think Josh's Dolphins were a B minus as well, if I'm not mistaken.
What were the Broncos then?
B, just solid B. They only had 5 picks, so they didn't do much.
A few of these teams that didn't have any first-round picks or even second-round picks, it's hard to get a good grade, I would expect. But
yeah, but I mean, I thought the Broncos did fine. They got filled some needs.
Outside of the Kiper and McShay, I saw someone was very, very high on New England, that they really upped their defense, which is they're going to have to rely upon next year. And then I've seen some people that were in love with what the Lions did. They were a little bit daring. They took a kid up high that probably would have been available a little later, and their second pick in the first round, the same thing, Campbell from Iowa, who I think is going to end up being a star football player, by the way, or at least a really solid one. So everybody's opinion can change a little bit, but you almost have to hit on your first guy pick.
Well, let's talk about the quarterbacks that were taken night 1 and one that was taken night 2. Night 1, Bryce Young went 1 overall to the Panthers. We all expected that. Number 2, there were some questions about the Texans pick coming in. I had them taking C.J. Stroud, and I ended up being right, thankfully, there. And then number 4, the Colts took Anthony Richardson, who I also had him mocked going to the Colts. I guess what are your thoughts on the Colts getting Richardson over, say, Will Levis, who slipped to the second round to the Titans?
Well, ironically, I didn't see a lot of Florida football or Kentucky football, but I watched a lot of the game those two played each other, and they were both just awful that night.
Yeah.
I mean, it was one of those 10-6 type games. Richardson's supposedly an athletic beast, was a combine monster. We shall see. This has a little bit of Mitch Trubisky written on it too. He's a guy similar a few years ago that only had 13 career starts and was pretty athletic. And Trubisky hasn't been horrific, but he hasn't lived up to being number 2. And he's always been shamed for drafted number 2 when, Patrick Mahomes went 10th. And even Deshaun Watson went lower than that, I believe. So it's a gamble, and out of this, those first four quarterbacks, Levis went in the second round, but very early. Chances are two of them aren't going to make it.
Yeah.
And by make it, I mean not be starters in 5 years. So, you'd think one of them, and it's probably young, but we don't know, one of them's going to be a star. So, for Colt fans, you kind of have to hope Richardson's a star, but he's in a good situation, I think. Colts have a great running back. They're going to get a couple of their defensive studs back this year. They're in, at least for time being, one of the easier divisions. But watch for that AFC South in about 3 years. If Levis is good, if
CJ Stroud's good,
and if the Colts' new quarterback is good, and you got Lawrence, and now all of a sudden you got three studs in their very young age. So AFC South could flip it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, that's a good point. I know a lot of Colt fans didn't really like the Richardson pick. I do know one that loved it because he said he's either going to be great or going to be awful. He doesn't think there's any in between. So said you should know pretty quickly within 2 years what you got there. But we will see. We will see there. Purdue Boilermakers, of course, UNI's alumni there, had 5 guys drafted. Charlie Jones went to the Cincinnati Bengals in the 4th round, which I think is a good spot for him. Then Aiden O'Connell, unfortunately for me, went to Las Vegas Raiders, which I'm very happy for him that he got drafted and happy he went in the 4th round, but I wish it wasn't Vegas. Because McDaniels, he can get some good quarterback play out of people, and Jimmy Garoppolo's been made of glass in the past. So if he can beat out Brian Hoyer, he might have a shot to be starter at some point.
I was going to ask you who the Raider backup is. It's Hoyer?
Yes, Brian Hoyer, I believe. And then Payne Durham went in the 5th round to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So Baker Mayfield will be throwing him passes, assuming he makes the team. Then a pair of defensive backs, Corey Trice and Jalen Graham. Corey went to the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 7th round, and Jalen Graham was the 5th to last pick in the whole draft, going to the San Francisco 49ers. So 5 Boilermakers taken, the most they've had since the 2004 draft, in which 9 were taking. The all-time for Purdue is 1960. There was 10 guys selected.
Right? Mm-hmm. Although I think in 1960 there was probably nearly 20 rounds.
Yeah.
I know Johnny Unitas was a 17th round pick back in 58. So take it for what it's worth.
Yep. So, no, happy for those guys. Pretty neat to see. That should help Purdue's recruiting efforts. I mean, it shouldn't hurt. It at least won't hurt. Because I was looking at Purdue's roster today. I don't know. They might not have anybody picked in the NFL next year. Or they could have a couple. I don't know. It's just hard to tell. But I was just unhappy that Aiden O'Connell went to the Raiders, because that gives each AFC West rival from the Broncos at Purdue Boilermaker.
Right.
Xander Horvath on the LA Chargers, George Karlaftis on the Chiefs, and now AOC on the Raiders, and the Broncos didn't take any. So that's all right, though. As long as the Broncos just win games, that's good enough for me.
Well, who's the last Purdue guy to play for the Broncos?
Play. Let's see. Sean Phillips was on their team in 2013. He might have been the last one to play in an actual game for the Broncos, not counting preseason.
I didn't know when Kyle Orton was there.
Sean was there after Kyle Orton was. Okay. So Sean Phillips was there for 1 year of the Peyton Manning era. Mm-hmm. So I cannot think of any other Purdue guys that might have played for the Broncos. Kind of few and far in between as far as regular season games. But Notre Dame had a couple guys go, of course, like they always do. I think they had 4. I think they had 4 guys drafted. Indiana, 0. They were, I think, the only Big Ten team that didn't have anybody drafted.
Yeah, I saw this today that there were 7 Power 5 schools that did not have anyone drafted. And ironically, about 4 of them are known as basketball schools: Arizona, Duke, Kansas, Indiana, Colorado, Vanderbilt, and Washington. Washington surprised me a little bit because they had a pretty nice team last year.
Sure. Well, and you got to think Colorado the next few years, that'll change.
Yeah.
You would think. You sure would think.
If he doesn't kick them off first.
Yeah, I saw they got some big-time commitments from some guys today that they flipped. So,
Yeah, Dion was also mad that the historical black college. There was only one kid drafted in the 7 rounds from an HBCU, but I don't think there was anything.
Well, I wouldn't. I don't think there was any racism
No,
or racial discriminacy towards that by any means, intentionally at least. But you got to think the HBCU schools are going to struggle now in the world of the NIL and the transfer portal to have kids get drafted.
right. Some kids will start there, and then
yes,
maybe once a school wants them at a quote unquote higher level, away they may go. Especially with those schools that being able to offer money as well. So
right. Any other thoughts on the NFL draft?
No, I think they could quicken it up a little bit on Thursday night, but they do it for TV.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you see the ratings numbers today? I don't think they're too worried. Let me pull it up here. Hopefully, I can find it pretty quickly. Now that I say that, I'm probably not going to be able to find it. Well, the attendance this year was 312,000, the most they've had in attendance. Yeah, 54.4 million viewers for the 3-day event.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Where is it next year?
Detroit.
Okay.
It's making its rounds.
Maybe that's one you and Josh need to go to. Might be closest you get here for a while.
Yeah. Maybe they'll go to Chicago when the Bears get a new stadium, but
yeah.
And Indianapolis would be a good spot for it, but they haven't done it yet. So they've done Nashville.
Indianapolis gets the combine, so
that's true for now until they eventually make a dumb mistake and move that out to LA. But nope, I enjoy the draft. I enjoy watching it every year. It just goes by fast, and you kind of always chuckle, especially on day 3 when guys are getting picked and they don't cover who's getting picked for about 10 until 10 picks later. Then they throw the highlights up and kind of play catch up. But it is incredible, especially the Daniel Jeremiah's and some of those other guys that really study the college game and scout how much they know about these prospects, even the ones going 6th, 7th round.
It was very painful, though, to watch the Will Levis show.
We've seen it before. With guys.
That doesn't make it any easier.
I know.
There were other kids in that green room, but the cameras were always on Levis. And
he's quarterback.
Yeah.
Geno Smith years ago. Slid to 2nd round.
Brady Quinn. Yeah.
Brady Quinn was still 1st round pick.
Yeah, and Aaron Rodgers famously
1st round pick. But yes.
Way late.
Yes. Drew Brees did not go to the green room, or he would have been the year, because he was first pick in the 2nd round by the Chargers.
Yeah, there was some reports just days before the draft that Levis, Vegas had him the 2nd best odds to be the number 1 pick.
I think it was hype off hype, if that makes sense. And just didn't turn out, because I thought my mock draft was going to be squashed, which I still didn't do that great. As far as getting the exact pick, exact guy right, I got 5 out of 31. I got the first 4, and then I got Zay Flowers going to the Ravens at 22. If you count getting the guys and just the picks with the number of picks right, I got 6, because I had Broderick Jones getting picked 14th, but I had him going to the Patriots. He ended up going to Steelers in a trade.
Right.
So
the Jets could get him.
So 6 out of 31, not my best. That was 11 back in 2020, but I'll probably never do that again.
Right.
So I'll take it. Well, with the NFL draft, all the NFL draft talk, I do have a word association segment which is related to the NFL draft. And let me pull it up here. This is from Bleacher Report. And this is their top 25 undrafted free agents of all time. But I'm not going to go through all 25. I'm just going to pick and choose some of them. You can give me your thoughts.
Okay.
Starting with kick returner / wide receiver Josh Cribbs out of Kent State.
I didn't even know he was from Kent State. Yeah, Josh Cribbs was a dude for a long time. He was as good a special team player as there was in the NFL for quite a long time.
Yeah, his receiving numbers, he only had 107 career catches for 1,161 yards, but he had 7 7 receiving touchdowns, but he returned 387 kickoffs for 10,015 yards and 8 touchdowns, along with 195 punt returns for 2,154 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So, not too shabby.
No.
How about Jeff Garcia out of San Jose State?
Yeah, he was a Pro Bowler, and I remember him playing in a famous playoff game with the 49ers against the Giants.
Yep.
Large comeback, and then he also went and played at Cleveland. He played all over. Didn't he play for Tampa Bay a little bit, maybe?
Tampa Bay, I think Philadelphia.
Yeah. Garcia made the rounds. For undrafted, he did quite well.
Tony Romo out of Eastern Illinois.
He was an all-time leading touchdown passer for the Cowboys. I don't think Dak's caught him yet. He will. But Romo, for whatever reason, I guess because he's a Cowboys quarterback, a lot of people hated him, but he was pretty darn good.
Well, I think his announcing, I think he went from likable for a lot of people, but to not so likable lately.
Yeah, I kind of saw that. I heard they don't think he does enough preparation. Plus, he's very over the top on Brady, Mahomes, Allen, Burrow.
Yep.
But
Jeff Saturday, North Carolina.
Yeah, he was a stalwart for the Colts. Tried his hand at coaching this year, and it after 1 week of wow, anybody can come do this. It was proven it might be a little tougher than it looks.
I think Colt fans for the longest time were still fearful he was going to get the job though, because Jim Irsay loves him.
They loved him. I mean, he was a Colt true and true.
Rod Smith, Missouri Southern.
Oh yeah, he was great Bronco receiver.
Mm-hmm.
He could get open downfield. He was a real weapon for those late '90s Broncos teams.
He got open against the Falcons in Super Bowl 33 for a long bomb touchdown.
Yeah.
Priest Holmes out of Texas.
Undrafted, really.
Yep.
Yeah, he was probably the dominant running back there for a couple-year period.
From 01 through 03, he was pretty dominant. In 05, his season got cut short from a spinal injury, and then he retired in 07. So injuries cut his career short. Because kind of remember they went Priest Holmes and Larry Johnson was pretty good for a little while, and then he got injured, and then eventually they got Jamal Charles down the line.
And that was kind of that era when they started de-emphasizing the running back after some of these guys had, 2, 3, 4 good years. Who was that? That Murray for the Cowboys led the league in rushing 1 year, and then all of a sudden in production.
You talk about DeMarco Murray?
Yeah.
Adam Vinatieri, South Dakota State.
Yeah, probably the greatest clutch kicker we've ever seen.
Arian Foster, Tennessee.
Well, he was a good one in his day too. Yeah, Houston Texan.
Mm-hmm.
But injuries derailed him as well.
Wes Welker, Texas Tech.
Yeah, he was something. Made a big drop in one of the Super Bowls that Brady lost.
That was the one in Indianapolis. Yeah.
Yeah, Giselle kind of got all over him on the social media.
He was a 5-time Pro Bowler, two-time first-team All-Pro. And he made another Super Bowl with the Broncos. He was a Bronco for 2 years, but that Super Bowl didn't go so well, 43-8.
I think he's one of those guys when he turns 65 will get in the Hall of Fame late, after his deal is done. They'll look back and say, this guy was pretty special.
Could be. He's in coaching. I forget what staff he's part of right now. James Harrison, also Kansas State.
Yeah. Made one of the most famous plays in Super Bowl history. Turned one of the most underrated Super Bowls ever played. Made just an incredible 100-yard interception return when it looked like he was going to get – it probably took 25 seconds for him to get one end to the other. Because if he get tackled after 99 yards, that scores nothing. But that took away a sure 3 points from the Cardinals and gave 7 points to the Steelers. So,
yep, that was Super Bowl 42.
Yeah.
John Randall, Texas A&M, Kingsville.
Yeah, he was pretty famous for a lot of reasons, but he liked to paint his face pretty good too.
Yeah.
And he liked to yap.
Remember I dressed up like him for Halloween one year when I was real young just because I don't even know what NFL PlayStation 1 game it was in the 90s. He was the cover guy. That was the only reason I dressed up like him. You don't remember that, obviously.
I don't think people got you confused for John Randall.
No.
I'm just guessing.
Another Kent State guy on the list, Antonio Gates.
Yeah, he's a basketball stud. I remember Kent State got to the Elite Eight back in the early 2000s and actually
2002.
ran into the Hoosiers.
Yep.
Yeah, he was. He's a Hall of Famer to be.
A couple more here. Warren Moon, Washington.
Well, he didn't. It was an era when African American quarterbacks weren't really.
He went to CFL first.
Went to CFL for about 4 or 5 years, and then.
And he led the Edmonton Eskimos to 5 straight Grey Cup championships.
Yeah, and then he came over, and he was a stalwart for years for the Oilers and the Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he ever won, but maybe one playoff game. But he sure racked up a lot of yards and a lot of completions.
And Richard Night Train Lane from Scottsbluff Junior College.
Yeah, that's way before my time.
It was, but you've heard of him.
I think he had 14 interceptions one year.
His career, he had 68 for his career.
And he was supposedly a hard hitter, too.
Yep.
That was back when guys played both ways a little bit. Night Train Lane. He's kind of a legend before my time.
And who do you think was number one on this list?
Kurt Warner.
Kurt Warner, yep.
Yeah, they made a movie about him.
Yeah, not too bad. Not too
Watch
bad.
it on the plane.
I did too. Movie. Yeah. He, I thought his career was pretty much done after his Giant days when Eli took over, but then he kind of rose there again for the Cardinals. And like we said earlier, talking about James Harrison, darn near led them to a Super Bowl victory. So
he's one of only about maybe 4 guys that's taken 2 different teams to a Super Bowl.
Peyton Manning, Tom Brady.
Then there's a guy named Craig Morton.
For the Cowboys and the Broncos.
And the Denver Broncos, yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're the only 4. But.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right. I'm thinking about that in my head, but I think you're right. Favre got close.
Right.
Lost as a Viking against the Saints. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not easy to do.
Yep. I can't think of anybody else who did it. So
we'll see if old Aaron Rodgers can do it this year.
Yeah. I'm already tired of it, and it hadn't even really begun yet. So, but that is the word association segment, which is brought to you by, like it is every week, Proforma Prints You Promo Group. If you're looking for a trustworthy, dependable resource for your next trade show, company picnic, or sales meeting, Proforma Prints You Promo Group has over 50 years combined experience in promotional products and commercial print. They strive for fast and efficient response to all your print needs, so you need to look no further. Let them be your one-source print and promotional company today by giving Barbara Van Weinsberg a call at 574-210-3815, or you can email her at barbara.vanweinsberg@proforma.com. Well, you want to get educated real quick and talk about some... I can educate you and talk about some sporting events that have happened on May 1st, and I haven't looked at this list, so I'm going to learn some things too. Let's see here. On this day in 1891, legendary pitcher Cy Young won his first game played at Cleveland's League Park as the Cleveland Spiders beat the Cincinnati Redlegs 12-3.
First to 511, I believe he had.
Yeah. As Josh points out a lot of times, he wasn't a very nice guy. Or that might have been Ty Cobb.
That's Ty Cobb.
Ty Cobb, okay. Yeah. All right. On this day, 1901, Chicago White Sox outfielder Herm McFarland hit the first Grand Slam in American League history. A 1909 win at home against Detroit Tigers. The Tigers also committed 12 errors that game.
That's a tough fielding day.
Yeah. Yes. On this day, 1920, Babe Ruth hit his first home run as a New York Yankee in his 6th win over his former club, the Boston Red Sox.
All right.
Let's see. A lot of baseball stuff. A lot of Hall of Famers making their debuts. Let's see if we can find something else. Oh, man. A lot of Kentucky Derby stuff. On this day, 1951, future Baseball Hall of Famer Mickey Mantle his first career home run, an 8-3 win against the White Sox in Chicago.
Nice.
On this day, 1955, future Baseball Hall of Fame pitcher Bob Feller tossed his record 12th one-hitter in the Indians' 2-1 win over the Boston Red Sox at Cleveland Stadium.
I think he may have ended up with 17 one-hitters.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
A lot of Derby stuff. On this day, 1965, who won the Stanley Cup?
The Stanley Cup, 65. Let's go with the Canadians.
It was the Montreal Canadiens beat the Chicago Blackhawks 4-0 in Game 7 to take the title 4-3.
I think there were still only 6 teams in those days.
Good guess. On this day, 1969, Leonard Toze, I believe, or Toze, I don't know how you pronounce his last name, bought the NFL's Philadelphia Eagles for a professional sports record of $16.15 million. I just have to chuckle because look at where we are nowadays when teams are going for $6 billion with a B.
Well, they just signed a quarterback for $250 million.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. A lot of Derby stuff. On this date in 1984, who was the first overall pick in the NFL draft? It was by the New England Patriots, if that helps you.
Irving Fryer?
It was. Nebraska wide receiver, yep. Mm-hmm. On this day, 1988, after scoring 50 points in Game 1, NBA Eastern Conference playoff series, Michael Jordan has 55 in the Bulls' 106-101 win against the Cleveland Cavaliers in Game 2, first to score 50-plus points in consecutive playoff games.
Yeah, I don't think Cleveland can figure out how to shut him down.
No. On this day, 1991, Nolan Ryan, then pitching for the Texas Rangers, pitched his MLB record 7th no-hitter against the Toronto Blue Jays. He was at age 44 when he threw that.
I can remember seeing clips, or they kept cutting to it back in baseball that night did. So
pretty incredible. We got a guy here that pops up on this day, it seems like quite often. On this day, 1992, Oakland Athletic outfielder Ricky Henderson stole his 1,000th career base in the A's 7-6 win at Detroit.
Yeah, he was a good one.
Yes, he was. Let's see. What else do we got here? On this day, 1995, the Canadiens lost 2-0 at Buffalo to miss the Stanley Cup playoffs for the first time in 25 years. On this day, 1996, Pat Riley got ousted in the opening round for the first time in his 14 years as head coach when the Heat were beaten by the Chicago Bulls and swept 3-1 in round 1 of the Eastern Division playoffs. On this day, in 2002, Padres closer Trevor Hoffman set an MLB record for saves for one team with 321 in a 4-3 win against the Cubs.
Okay.
See if I can find one more. On this day in 2021, who won the Kentucky Derby?
2021.
It gave trainer Bob Baffert a record 7th victory.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was Medina Spirit.
Oh, yeah. I do remember the name.
I do now, too, after reading it. But
I think wasn't Justify the last one to win a Triple Crown?
Sounds right. I still remember Smarty Jones being close back in like 05.
Yeah.
So
I think 2 of them did it there in a 2 or 3 year period, but I think it's been like 5 years since it happened.
Yeah.
Flying by. Yeah.
There's been, if I hear the horses, then I could remember them, but I know there was another
American
good one.
Pharaoh or something like that.
Yeah, and like there was a good one like 2013 or 14. Yeah. That is the On This Day, which is brought to you by Mooney Woodcrafts. Mooney Woodcrafts is a veteran-owned and operated woodcraft shop based out of North Carolina with Indiana grassroots. They provide 100% hand-cut custom designs to fit your needs, and their pieces are a great addition to any home, office, or man cave. You can see some of their recently completed projects by visiting them at Mooney Woodcrafts on Instagram and on Facebook. And if you let them know the Tan and J-Man Show sent you, you get 15% off your order. And Thad can do all types of signs, from sports teams to military to growth charts to wedding signs. Anything you want, he can make. So, once again, visit them on Instagram or Facebook. Well, NBA playoffs. We had a lot of NBA playoffs on this day this week. How much of the playoffs have you watched?
A little bit. I took interest in 2 or 3 of the series. I have to admit, I have always liked the Warriors, but I have Warrior fatigue.
Yes.
And I'm really tired of Draymond Green. What a classic. It's TV, but he said Sabonis didn't shake his hand. He lost the respect for him. Of course, he just threw his size 17 into Sabonis's gut last week. And he punched a teammate out this year. I mean,
yeah.
But anyway, Steph Curry went for 50, and they knocked the Kings out.
Yeah, and he yelled "like the beam" after the horn sounded. So
yeah, and he said he was yelling at the crowd, "You're not ready for this blank yet." And,
they will be. They aren't yet, but they will be, I think.
Yeah, De'Aaron Fox is a real dude. He played Carson Edwards in the AAU league years ago, and I think De'Aaron's kind of shown his moxie. Sure. That was a good series. Obviously, the Bucks losing was kind of shocking.
Yep.
Giannis missed 2 games totally, but they won one of the 2 he missed. They were 0-3 when he played.
Yeah, it just didn't click for some reason, and the Heat are a stupidly dangerous 8 seed.
And they are, and Tyler Hero, who was their second leading scorer at 21 a game, he's out. So you don't know where you're going to get the scoring from the Heat other than playoff Jimmy. Jimmy Butler's always been good in the playoffs.
He's saving the day for him without their hero.
But you had sent something yesterday where in the NBA, there's 8 teams left, and each team was either a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8 seed. Even though the Warriors at a 6 and the Lakers at a 7 sounds outrageous. They were both favored to win their series. That's what they were 6 and 7 seeds. And that's the way it goes in today's world of load management stuff. You about have to look at what the record is when they're in full mode.
Yeah. All healthy with a full roster, right?
As much as I'm an anti-Laker and have been since the early 70s, it didn't really hurt to see him beat the Grizzlies because I think they're kind of an immature team that needs a leader.
Well, and the Lakers-Warriors series will be a fun one to watch and will generate really good ratings.
Well, the good thing about that is one of them has to lose.
Right.
So, I'm hoping the Nuggets can hold off the Suns. The Suns are one of those teams that were in the NBA Finals just two
years ago. Gets the Bucks, yep.
And then they go get Durant. And Chris Paul's probably one of the more famous NBA players who's never won a ring.
Yep.
But I hope the Nuggets get him.
I think
the Nuggets come out of the West.
That would make my bold prediction come true. I have the Nuggets winning the Western Conference Finals in one of my 23 bold predictions for 2023. So I hope you're right, and I think they're a fun team to watch.
They are.
They're built the right way too. They're never going to get a big free agent. They're franchise guys, a guy they got in the second round, and he's a back-to-back MVP. And honestly, I saw Bill Simmons said he's probably going to regret not voting for the Joker for the 3rd straight MVP because they do the voting so early. You don't take the playoffs in consideration, and he's kind of proven right now he can put his team on his back. So.
Yeah, of course, Jamal Murray has had some big games.
Sure,
he was doing that a few years ago in the bubble.
Yes, then he got hurt.
And so Denver hasn't been whole for 2 years now. And,
yep,
they're the real deal.
This is actually going to be my Tanner's book of prediction of the week, which is usually the J-Man's book of prediction weight, but there's no J-Man tonight. Denver Nuggets take Game 2 tonight against the Suns. They go up 2-0. So we will see. Maybe I'll have a better track record than the J-Man does on these, but I'll have to
I wish the NBA would go to a best 3 of 5. 4 of 7 is a long time.
Well, they used to do 3 games in the first round.
Yeah. I know.
Yep.
But 3 of 5 sounds right to me. In the East, either the Sixers either the Knicks or the Heat are going to be in the Eastern Conference Final. I don't think anybody had that down.
Which I think a lot of people are rooting for the Heat. And I know the Heat have been successful, don't get me wrong, with Dwayne Wade, then LeBron James, and even in the bubble year, they were runner-up to the Lakers. But just with the Knicks fans being so cocky on Twitter right now and social media, I think everybody's like, okay, we're ready for you to start losing again.
Yeah.
I mean, in a guy that I share a lot of his content with you, Frank Fleming, Frank the Tank of Barstool Sports, he's decided earlier this year he was going to be an NBA free agent fan. Okay, he's tired of the Nets, tired of them. He went to game 1 yesterday and chose the Knicks as his new team, then they lost. So the Fleming curse might be with the Knicks now. Yeah. His Devils might get ousted in game 7 tonight by the Rangers. Mets can't do anything right in his eyes. Dolphins either. So maybe the Fleming curse will take the Knicks down.
They talk a lot on TV about the Madison Square Garden crowd, and you and I experienced a little bit of that at the Big Ten tournament that was at Madison Square Garden, and that was just from the Rutgers fan base. And Rutgers was a horrible team that year, and we saw them beat Indiana on Thursday night, and then a very good Purdue team. They took them to the brink on Friday night, and that place was electric.
Yep.
And I can't imagine when you had the whole building instead of just 3/4 of it going for a team like the Knicks. That's magical.
Well, and how about that Saturday, Michigan against Michigan State?
Yeah.
It was sold out, and that was unbelievable atmosphere. Yeah. So, like you said, and that was half and half. Like you said, when you have the whole place going for one team, it's probably pretty special.
Yeah. And as we walked in, we saw, it was either a very large mouse or a small rat. In Madison Square Garden. So,
yeah.
The place is old, but
still on a bucket. It should be on any sports fan's bucket list, though, just because the history in the building. It was cool to walk around, see the concerts that have been performed there, the boxing matches, WrestleManias, things like that. So,
right.
Very cool. Very
to
cool.
See the Knicks in the playoffs, that would have to be, one of the more energetic fan bases that could be.
Well, the New York Rangers too.
Yeah.
That are in the playoffs right now. Probably not on the level of the Knicks, but still, it's been a while since they've won anything.
Right.
But yeah, in the East, I would my prediction, I guess for these series, I think the Nuggets win, I think the Lakers win, and I think the Heat win and the Celtics win.
I agree with your two East. I think you're wrong on both the West. I think it'll be the Warriors, and unfortunately, I think the Suns will get them.
That's why. I mean, if the Nuggets can get game 2 tonight and go up 2-0.
Well, that'll make it tough.
That will make it tough. That'll make it tough. And before I forget, I do want to mention that the J-Man's Booker Prediction of the Week is brought to you by Indiana Farm Bureau Insurance Agent Travis Watring. Travis is a multi-line agent for Indiana Farm Bureau Insurance, specializing in home, auto, life, renter's insurance, annuities, and farm insurance. You can contact Travis by giving him a phone call at 219-869-4561, or you can email him at travis.watering@infarmbureau.com.
I forgot one point I was going to make about the Nuggets, though. The Suns are not a deep team. Once they got Durant, they had to give up 3 or 4 players to get him. And you play at Denver in the altitude, and your starters going 40 minutes. That's not conducive to winning.
It's true.
Denver probably has as good a home court advantage as any team in sports because of that.
I feel like it doesn't get talked about very much. It does in football, of course. In baseball, it does because of I don't know. I think it goes against the Rockies in baseball because they can't ever pitch very well. Everybody can go out there and hit. But yeah, it doesn't get talked about, I don't think, in basketball terms near enough, especially when the NCAA tournament's out there and everybody's playing in that too.
Mm-hmm.
But shooting and just from a conditioning standpoint. But yeah, I've watched more of the NBA playoffs than I thought I would. I still haven't watched a complete game, but I've watched quarters and bits and pieces of different games.
Yeah, I haven't followed it I've become like a Luka Doncic fan, and his team didn't make it.
Yep.
So, and the Pacers aren't in. The Bulls went out in a hurry, so my interest level is a little bit lower.
The Sonics aren't back yet, so
yeah, Sonics are not back.
Not yet. Give them time. Give them time. Expansion when they take a team to Vegas and then make Seattle get a team too. So
Okay.
That's my prediction. Then Vegas will have the A's as well in baseball eventually, and they'll just have a team for every league. So that's
Oakland East.
Oakland East. But speaking of NHL real quick, my Avalanche, defending Stanley Cup champs, out. Seattle Kraken upset them last night, 2-1 in Game 7 in Colorado. So they're going home earlier than expected. And the Bruins, one of the NHL's best teams in regular season history, 63 wins, and absolutely choked the series away to the Florida Panthers. So all of a sudden, the lane, I guess, so to speak, is open for the Toronto Maple Leafs to do something they haven't done in a long, long, long time.
Yeah, I think the Bruins had leads in the third quarter, Game 6 and 7.
Yep, just choked.
They can only blame themselves. They had a chance to close it down.
NHL playoff hockey is very fun to watch because not only is it intense, it's very unpredictable. I mean, we've seen 8 seeds win it all. Los Angeles Kings are the most recent ones in my memory to do it. It's not unheard of by any means. Whereas in NBA it is, and MLB is different. I mean, totally different. In NFL, you'll see a wild card team now and then do it, but it was unfortunate. I would say, they were without their captain Gabriel Landeskog, but he didn't play the whole season. So you can't use that as an excuse. They were out without Cale Makar in Game 5, but that was because he did an illegal hit on the guy in Game 4. Just for whatever reason, they played better on this series on the road than they did at home. And their old goalie played lights out against them last night. And if it wasn't for him, they would have probably blew Seattle out of the water because he was getting no help on defense, but he was making some miraculous saves, and that's just sports. It happens sometimes, just unfortunate. I wanted to see him at least win one round to keep on going, but it is what it is. And the Kraken, in only their second playoff series in their short franchise history, are moving on. So, which is also something you can see in hockey. I mean, the Las Vegas Golden Knights did that years ago. They made the Stanley Cup, I think, in their second year of existence. So that's not unheard of either.
No.
But other than that, baseball's going on, of course. I've got to say, I've watched the least amount of baseball so far this season I ever have in my life. So I haven't even given the new rules much of a chance, which by a lot of people's opinions, they're going over really well.
Yeah.
But I did see one today, a new one they just put in, was that teams have to notify the MLB 24 hours in advance if they think they're playing in a situation where somebody could get a standing ovation. So that way that team, they can look out for it so they don't get a delay.
Oh, really?
Because a couple teams have been delayed this year because this crowd starts standing, the guy starts waving a little bit, and he doesn't get in the batter's box in time and gets delayed. And it's like, come on. Yeah. So now they have a rule you have to notify the league 24 hours in advance.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I haven't really paid a whole lot of attention, but it is May 1st.
Well, looking at the divisions, the New York Yankees are tied for last in the AL East right now with a 15-14 record. Tampa Bay has a commanding lead, 23 wins, 6 losses. The Baltimore Orioles, their baby birds from the AAA, are playing really well, 19-9 record, and the Blue Jays are 18-10. The AL Central's a mess besides the Twins at the top at 17-12. Everybody else is really struggling. The White Sox are a disaster at 8-21.
That's what I written down, one of my big surprises.
Just a disaster.
And they came from 4 runs down in the 9th yesterday, where they'd be 7-22.
I mean, you look at the AL. I mean, you got the White Sox 8-21, Royals 7-22, A's 6-23. Those are 3 pretty bad baseball teams.
Yes, they are.
The Mariners are kind of surprising so far with the poor start they've been off to, 12-16.
Yeah.
The Rangers will win that division at 17-11, but I still think it's probably the Astros that lose eventually. National League Braves have the NL East lead at 19-9. That's not surprising. Everybody else kind of struggling in that division. The Phillies are 15-14, but they got some positive news today that Bryce Harper's going to make his debut tomorrow as a designated hitter 2 months earlier than expected to return from Tommy John surgery. So that's big. The Pittsburgh Pirates, one of the best stories in the league right now with a 20-9 record.
Absolutely.
Right now, winning the NL Central. I know your good friend, Sean Schreiber, a friend of the show. He's got to be over the moon about that so far, I would think.
Yeah, he keeps saying he thinks water's going to find his level.
Sure.
But, it is a good story. I mean, if the playoffs started today, it would be quite a contrast to what people thought it was going to be. I mean, the St. Louis Cardinals are 10-21.
10-19.
Oh, 10-19.
10, but still, they're last place in the Central.
I did write down 10. They're 10 games out.
Yeah, and the Arizona Diamondbacks have the lead in the West right now.
Yeah.
The Colorado Rockies are worst record-wise in the NL with record 9-20. That's not surprising, especially when your owner comes out and says, "I think we can be a 500 team." That's just what you want to hear. And their fans aren't showing up this year like they usually do, and that's usually what he just lines his pockets with attendance, and that's not even happening. So, yeah, if the playoffs started today in the American League, you would have the Rays, Rangers, Twins, Orioles, Blue Jays, and Astros as your 6 teams. And in the National League, you have the Pirates, Braves, Diamondbacks, Brewers, Dodgers, and Marlins.
Oh, the Cubs didn't make it?
Cubs were 5th. The Mets for 4th in the wild card right now.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, 1 month done.
Yeah, a lot of season left. Left.
I took a look at what I thought were some great individuals. Looks like Garrett Cole is the preeminent pitcher in baseball. Clayton Kershaw, 5-1 with a 1.89 ERA, something like that.
Dude doesn't age.
And then, of course, Ohtani and Trout are both off to good starts. But
now, do you think the Angels will trade one or if not both of them at the trade deadline if they're out of it?
If they're out of it, yeah.
Probably Ohtani more so than Trout, since he's going to be a free agent.
And I don't know who's going to pay that $600 million he's going to want. But I also thought it was interesting because baseball doesn't have true superstars. I don't know if you can say even how many superstars are in baseball. You know, Ohtani, Trout, Judge.
I think Aaron Judge, especially with the market he plays in.
Well, that's why I say Judge. Those 3. You know, I would have thought Mookie Betts had been in the vicinity. He's batting .235. Christian Yelich, MVP in the past, batting .223. Alex Bergman, .219. And the guy I thought was going to be huge for the Padres and a potential MVP, Juan Soto, batting .202.
Yeah.
So even some great pitchers. Zach Greinke, who's a potential Hall of Famer, he's 0-4 with the 6 ERA. Chris Sale, 6.75. And Lance Lynn, supposed to be a stud for the White Sox, 0-4 with a 7.16 ERA. So
I mean, they are really bad.
Yeah, they must be.
And it's weird. They're a weird team. They're in such a big market, and they have money to spend. But like you shared with me last week, they're one of 3 MLB clubs, along with the A's and the Royals, and never spent $100 million on a player.
Right. You can't even, I don't know. Do you have to go back to Frank Thomas for a – well, they've had some good young players, but like you said, they've never had a guy that's just a star there for decades, like since Frank Thomas. Harold Baines, who isn't even there forever.
Paul Konerko was pretty good, but he probably wasn't a
good
star.
Yeah.
They've had a lot of good pieces. I mean,
Yeah.
that 05 World Series team had good pieces.
Yeah.
They had Jim Tomei there for a little bit. But no, you're right. And a few years ago, it looked like, there was high expectations last year after what they did 2 years ago. And the Russa hire was just a mess. It's Jerry Reinsdorf. He owns the Bulls too, and he probably should own either one.
No, you're right.
But
the White Sox are just in their attendance. I saw some of their comeback yesterday, and I know they're down 4 runs, and I know it's cold and wet, so people weren't there. But I mean, literally, 11 people might have been in that ballpark. That 4-run rally in the 9th inning.
I had to laugh. There was an all-time rant on Chicago sports radio last week. Guy went on for 7 minutes, and Waddle and his partner, I can't think of his name right now,
Sylvie.
let him go on, and he was unbelievable. I mean, he started off like, I've been a diehard White Sox fan for 40 years. I'm thinking, oh, great, this guy's going to say something stupid. But he was so spot on. But my favorite comment he made the whole time was, it took the Bears 6 months to lose 11 games. It took us 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it was. Yes, that's pretty good.
The Bears might have lost 11,
Yeah.
11 in 2 weeks too.
Yeah, but it was pretty good. So,
Yeah.
yeah, tough times there on the south side of Chicago.
Well, I tell you. Yeah.
Anything else you want to hit on real quick before we wrap it up with the birdie or bogey question?
Well, got a couple minutes. I'm anxious to see golf roll around again. Actually, LIV golf's been much more interesting.
Live golf. Live golf. Yeah.
Live golf has been much more interesting than the regular tour. So this week, a few Rory and Jordan and your man Ricky. Some of those boys will be back playing in North Carolina.
Yeah, watch for Rick to contend. He's won there. He got tied for fifth when the PGA Championship was there a couple years ago. A good outing would get him in the top 50 of the world rankings. He's 52 right now. So,
wish I had $1 for every time I've heard you say that. Watch for Ricky to contend.
I'm more positive this year than I have been in a while. So, yeah. he might have a chance to make the Ryder Cup team this year.
Well,
a lot of especially if the live guys aren't going to be on it. So
right, with no Dustin Brooks or I don't know anybody. Taylor Gooch is obviously.
I was to say Bryson DeChambeau wouldn't be one right now.
No,
so
I remember when they announced that live tour. The guy Nick Faldo was the most disappointed in was Taylor Gooch. Said this guy's going to be a superstar and we'll never know it. Well, all of a sudden he's won back-to-back weeks.
$8 million in 2 weeks. So
yeah,
but he fell. Him. He fell in the world golf rankings.
But he did sneak into the PGA.
Yeah.
Him and Anna that Lahari or for whatever from India.
Do you think they'll figure that out eventually? The system.
I think a live guy needs to win one for them.
Yeah.
And it probably needs to be somebody other than Brooks, Dustin, or Cameron Smith. Just one of these Taylor Gooches or Anahar Lahari or Abraham Answer or somebody Joaquin Neiman. Because the live guys, what they have done, they have created an international audience, and by playing in Australia and all these other countries, and then they have teams of all Australians and all South Africans, and I think they've been much more popular in the outside world than they are in the United States.
Yeah, internationally. I mean, Australia loved it. That was the first tournament they've had in years. They loved it, but it is different. I watched that one in Australia. It was the first one I watched CW. The presentation's different. It's definitely a different feel than PGA Tour. I'm a big professional wrestling fan. I've made that noted, and I like all elite wrestling more than I do WWE, but I like that you have choices. You have alternatives. I think it's good for golf to have an alternative. That's just my opinion.
I think it makes the 4 majors even more highlighted.
Yeah.
I do think there's got to be a way to get 12 or 15 of these live guys. Some of them are past their primes, the Westwoods and the Stensons and stuff. Bubba, but they definitely have probably 10 or 12 of the best 40 players in the world over there. And that's what you want to see in the majors is the best players.
Yep. Yep. Well said. Mm-hmm. Well, can you hit me with that birdie or bogey question again, please?
Yes, it was about overall number 2 picks.
Yes.
And only 3 of them have made the Hall of Fame since 1984. Since it's not for a
yeah, it's not. It's a tough one. I'm glad it's a tough one because it's not counting against me if I get it wrong or not counting in my favor if I get it right.
One was a running back, one was a wide receiver, and the other one was an offensive tackle.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I had a D lineman in mind, so that's out. I had Howie Long. But was he not number 2 overall?
He was not, no.
Okay, his son Chris was. I thought there was a connection there for some reason.
His son was, you're right.
But he wasn't a Hall of Famer. You said running back, offensive lineman, and what was the other position?
Wide receiver. The wide receiver left football too early.
That's Calvin Johnson.
Yep.
Yeah, because I was thinking, the other wide receiver the Lions took over number 2 overall, Charles Rogers. I honestly, I know where shows come to a close. I can't think of anybody, so just hit me with it.
It was Marshall Faulk.
Didn't know he was the number 2
Tony
overall.
Maselli, who just got in the Hall of Fame from Jacksonville.
I didn't know either 2 of those guys were number 2 overall. So
yeah, it would have been a
tough one. Yeah. Well, thanks, Dad, for filling in on kind of a late notice today, but it's always fun talking sports with you, and appreciate you being on, and look forward to when you got to fill in for the J-Man next time.
All right. Have a good evening.
Yep, we'll be on the same time, same channel next week when the J-Man returns. Have a good week, everybody.